Take your 2 weeks and go quietly. That's what the CEO's nephew said to me, right there in front of the entire acquisition committee. Travis, a man with all jawline and zero substance, leaned back in his leather chair like he just solved capitalism. The buyer's executives stared at him like he was a raccoon attempting to drive a golf cart. I just smiled, the kind of smile you get after months of watching a slow-motion car crash that everyone else insists is a parade. Travis thought he had just handled the woman who'd spent the last 8 years building the operational backbone of the company from scratch. He had no idea that the 2 weeks he just offered me were the last ones he was ever going to spend in a meeting room. He'd strutted into the room in a tight blazer and too much cologne, his PowerPoint on the screen behind him, stuck on a title slide that said Core Sentry 2.0 Streamlined. Synergized. Savage. I wish I were joking. The buyers, from a private equity firm called Nordell Systems, were the kind of people who could spot operational decay faster than mold in a walk-in fridge. And Travis was wrought with a tie. Carol's been a huge part of our legacy team, he said, doing that classic move where men pretend they're honoring a woman while simultaneously backing over her career. But we're moving in a new direction. Lean, agile, aggressive. She'll be stepping down after a brief transition period. He didn't even glance at me. What Travis didn't know was that he just handed a loaded weapon to someone who already knew how to shoot. I'd spent the last 2 months working quietly with Nordell's due diligence team, not because I begged for relevance, but because the retiring CEO had left without warning, and Travis waltzed in with a badge and a branding deck. Someone had to make sure the company didn't implode before the ink dried. He had no clue I had given them stability in a password-protected file, quietly showing them the real bones of the machine they were about to purchase. He didn't know about the emails where I was copied on internal risk threads, or the message I received from Nordell's VP of Integration, Maya, asking, "You okay? Just checking on you." That was the turning point. My silence was getting louder than Travis's noise, so I replied with one line. "Yes, but you might want to request page 14, paragraph 3E in the staffing agreement." I didn't explain what it said. I didn't need to, because paragraph 3E was the part no one read. The part Travis had signed off on without even glancing. The part that named the continuity lead as having sole veto power over any staffing transition. And that line was still blank. Not for long. The first thing Travis did was pull me from all cross-functional calls, saying, "You're just ops. Let strategy handle the big stuff." He had no clue that his mistakes were threatening the deal. My deal. The one I had sacrificed weekends and birthdays to get across the finish line. The contract had been sitting in my inbox for 2 weeks. I finally clicked it open and went to page 14. Paragraph 3E. All staffing decisions related to transition phase, operational personnel must receive final approval from the designated continuity lead, Carol R. Ellis. They had buried a landmine inside the contract. Travis had signed it. He'd authorized a document that handed me a bigger sword than anything I could have forged myself. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about control. The morning before the final acquisition meeting, My inbox lit up with a company-wide email from Travis. Subject line: exciting next chapter, core century to Nordell. He had no idea that the clause he signed in blind faith was about to eat his entire career like a vending machine sandwich. I went home that night and slept like a brick. The next morning, Travis strutted into the acquisition meeting like a man about to accept an Emmy for Best Imaginary CEO. He said, "I'd like to personally thank everyone who helped us get here, including Carol Ellis, who will be transitioning out over the next 2 weeks." I didn't flinch. I just reached into my bag and pulled out one item, a business card. Matte black, white ink, clean font, one name, Carol R. Ellis, Interim COO, Transition Operations, Americas, Nordell Systems, no drama. Just a quiet hand across the table to the buyer's CEO. He took it, looked down, then laughed. Sharp, sudden, involuntary, not cruel, delighted, like someone had just been handed the punchline to a joke they didn't know they were part of until that very second. Travis blinked twice. "Something funny?" he asked, his voice cracking at the edges. The buyer's CEO didn't answer, just tilted the card toward his legal rep, who took it, read it, and smiled. Not a smirk, a knowing grin like, "Finally, it's time." Then came the next moment. One of the Nordell execs opened his binder. He flipped directly to a page marked with a single yellow sticky tab. Page 14. Paragraph 3. E. The room went still. Travis's mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a fish learning how to breathe on dry land. He looked at the page, then at the CEO, then at me, as if I'd materialized out of thin air to steal his crown. The buyer's CEO leaned back in his chair. "So about your 2 weeks, Travis," he said smoothly. "We're reallocating you to facility ops in Kansas City. They could use some help with forklift scheduling, shift B nights." I didn't say a word. I simply stood, walked to the end of the table, and accepted the small envelope the HR director passed me. Inside, my Nordell badge. I slipped it into the clip on my lapel. It clicked into place with a soft snap that somehow echoed louder than Travis's entire speech from 10 minutes ago. "Thank you all," I said, looking forward to getting started. No one moved. No one objected, because it was done. I turned toward the exit, ready to leave the room I'd quietly owned, long before anyone realized. And then, just behind me, soft and broken, Travis's voice cracked. "Wait, she reports to you?" The buyer's CEO smiled, a slow, precise gesture. "No," he said. "She is me, for the next 90 days." I didn't turn around. I didn't have to. I walked out of that room and left Travis standing in the ruins of his imaginary empire, drowning in the one thing he never thought he'd have to face: consequence.